Well, it felt like summer this week, and so I've asked the panel to look at their bookshelves and find a book to recommend to you for your summer reading. It might be one they've read or one they're ready to read this summer. Sarah, start us off. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I'm recommending The Overstory by Richard Powers, which I read last year. And it's a real sweeping novel that centers trees as kind of the main characters. That might seem odd, given that trees don't seem to do that much. But that's actually what the author is trying to challenge us to think of trees in more human-like ways, that they're parts of communities, they help each other out, they learn from one another and communicate with another. And it also has human characters, so it has lots of really interesting stories. The stories start intersecting when these various characters go out west and become radical environmental activists in support of saving old-growth forests.
Okay, Ty, what's yours?
I have the Liberation Trilogy by Rick Atkinson, and yesterday was the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and if you want to understand D-Day and the best writing I've seen about it, Rick Atkinson's final book on this trilogy is Guns at Last Light. He researches like the devil, writes like an angel, and it is a showing of one of America's finest hours, which is triumphing over the evil of fascism, liberating the death camps, and freeing millions of humans from Nazi terror. So it's a great read. I recommend it.
3 for 1 there. Rick, what have you got?
The Road to Freedom, Economics and the Good Society by Joseph Stiglitz. Stiglitz, who's won the Nobel Prize in Economics. In this book, he argues that the political right has a simplistic and flawed vision of freedom, and this causes them to equate unregulated markets with freedom and government and regulation of markets with a loss of freedom. And he goes through and does a very good job of showing how one person's freedom can easily cause another's loss of freedom, and that we need to come up with a new system, both political and economic, that ensures that freedom of all can be brought forward. And he says that sometimes collective action can lead to more freedom than simply letting individuals do whatever they want.
So it sounds a little heavy.
Yes, but for anyone who'd like to know, he's done a very good job of dealing with issues from wealth distribution to globalization, and he's an excellent writer. This is general nonfiction, and this is not just for economic nerds.
Okay,
like
so
me.
it's easy to read. I could
Yes.
understand some of it. Okay, Luke, what have you got for us?
When I think summer, I think baseball, and I'm currently reading the book called The Arm by Jeff Passan, who's a journalist. Love the subtitle here, Inside the $1 Billion Mystery of the Most Valuable Commodity in Sports. Youth coaching is another major service endeavor for me, and I coach Little League and help run our town's Little League. And one thing I need to do is coach young pitchers. And if you followed baseball at all, particularly pitching, you know that this century we've had an epidemic in terms of pitchers blowing out their arms, specifically tearing the ligament that helps hold their elbow together. And this book chronicles how we got here and tries to provide some insights as to how we can maybe remedy this very challenging situation.
Is there a key something that we've done wrong to have all these arms blow out, as you say?
Well, one critique in the book is the rise of year-round specialization in sports, which would be travel leagues. And if you're a pitcher and you play baseball and you pitch year-round and you're 8, 9, 10 years old, particularly when you can throw 70, 80 miles per hour, that's probably not going to be good for your ligaments in your elbow. So pitch limits and not specializing in playing year-round seems to be one potential remedy, though there's no clear consensus on that.
And that's occurred in so many other sports, not just baseball.
Yeah, and it's a moneymaker. That's one of the reasons, too, that people do that.
Dave Shinetri on email told me that he and his roommate exchanged books. And so his roommate gave him a book called Robert E. Lee and Me by a guy named Ty Seidule. Ty?
I recommend it.
Yeah.
Well, one book that I would like to recommend is called White Too Long by Robert Jones. It is, the title of it comes from a James Baldwin quote, which is, white people have been white so long that they are beyond any conceivable hope of moral rehabilitation. It's really about white supremacy in American Christianity. And the author is head of a public research group, and they did an academic study showing that on the racism scale, white Christians are much higher than the general public, than all whites, and even than all whites who are not religious at all. It's a hard read, I will confess that, because it really got to my heart and our church book group that read it. But it's really important for us to know history, because I'm sure, as Ty would say, and we don't know it, we can't change it. I want to also, since I have a minute, tuck in another book, which is actually a recommendation from two of our Ivory Tower viewers. And that is American Ramble. Ann and Dan Gully gave me this book when we were on the road at Utica University. It's written by a Wall Street Journal reporter who walked from Washington, D.C. on back roads and country lanes all the way to New York City. And it's about the people he met. It's part memoir, it's part spiritual journey, and it's infused with a lot of history of Harper's Ferry and those little towns that he met. He is a very gifted writer, and so I would encourage you to take a look at American Ramble.